Welcome, everybody. Before introducing today's guest and our topic, I'd like to ask for feedback. Can you see and hear everything properly? Before we jump right into it, let me check the comments. Yeah, as I can see from the chat, yes. So let's jump right into it. At CUBIX Institute of Technology, we aim to gather the most essential skill set blocks for IT professionals by organizing cohort-based online IT tech courses with the help of industry-leading mentors, tech companies, and higher education institutions. Today, we will talk about Java Spring Boot through a live action demo. So let me introduce our guest today, Gábor Imre, software architect at Autsoft and assistant lecturer at BMA. Gábor, thank you for joining us today.
Welcome, thank you.
Gábor is a software architect who has been slaying server-side Java dev for over 10,000 hours. He also an experienced teacher who makes learning fun, but most importantly, practical. In this webinar, you will see Spring Boot through a live demo and discover its benefits. But before we start, here's a few more operational details. You can ask anytime in the comment section, and all the questions will be answered at the end of the webinar at the latest. And if you can't stay at the end of this webinar, you can watch it back on our Facebook and YouTube channels. So if you haven't already, follow us on our social platforms. So Gábor, it's your time to shine. Let us closer to Java Spring Boot and let's see what it's capable of.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen and I will develop a very small application. I will call it a web shop application, but it's just to get a taste of Java development with Spring Boot. I create my project. I use here Spring 2 Suite and I will create my project with this wizard, create new Spring Starter project. My project's name will be webshop. I will choose the type of the build system. It will be a Maven-based project. I will use Java 17. I give a group and artifact name to my project. And this will be a webshop project Spring Boot. And after next, I am able to choose which technologies, which libraries of Spring offered by Spring Boot I would like to use. Because I want to store some data in a relational database, in a PostgreSQL database, I will choose PostgreSQL driver. Also, because I want to access the database through an object relational mapping layer, I'm going to use Spring Data JPA. And because I want to develop a very simple web interface, I will use Spring Web and ThymeLeaf. ThymeLeaf is a templating engine through which I will be able to render some HTML from the server side. After next, my project will be generated. I just have to wait a bit. Because this is a Maven-based project, you can develop it with any other integrated development environment as well. So if you prefer using IntelliJ, you can do the build the very same project, just import it and compile and build it, and so on and so on. So by default, this webshop application .java was generated by this wizard, which is a typical class used to start a Spring Boot web application. It has a Spring Boot application annotation, and in this main method, this is how we start a Spring Boot application. Now I'm gonna create a class to store our products stored in the web shop. So with a right click, I say new class, and I will put this into the webshop.model package. So our model classes, our persistent data model is very often implemented in this sub package, and the name of the class will be product. And inside of this product, I will add some data. Let's say we will have an integer ID. Each product will have an ID and string name, and let's say a double price. I will also generate some getters and setters. If you use Java, I believe you are comfortable with getters and setters. And what I'm going to do is I will turn this simple class into a JPA entity. JPA stands for Java Persistence API, and it is the object relational mapping tool very often used at server-side Java development. It will enable that these instances of this product can be stored in a product table in a relational database. To make it an entity, I will simply add an @entity annotation. If this entity annotation is not found in the class path, I will just make sure that my project is up to date. So I will refresh my Maven project. So all the dependencies declared in this pom.xml file, like Spring Boot Startup Data JPA, Spring Boot Startup Web, and so on, they all get downloaded. Now it should be able to see the entity annotation from the jakarta.persistent package. So I add this entity. Each entity should have a primary key, an ID. Obviously, I introduce this ID field so that it will be the ID of the entity. And I also want that these IDs are generated automatically. So I add the generated value annotation as well. Okay, so this is how an entity looks like. If we would want, we could customize the details of the object relational mapping, like adding, for example, column annotation. And in this column annotation, I can declare what should be the name of the column in the database, but there are meaningful defaults, so I don't add these customizations now. Okay. Dealing with entities is made very easy in Spring Boot with the Spring Data JPA library. We will create repository interfaces. These repository interfaces will implement the typical CRUD operations related to entities. CRUD stands for create, retrieve, update, delete. So I'm going to create now such an interface. It will be put into the repository subpackage, and the name of it will be product repository. I finish, and now it's an empty interface. I'm gonna make it a Spring Data JPA repository by extending it. Extending the JPA repository interface. The JPA repository interface is generic. It has two type parameters. The first type parameter is the type of the entity. Obviously, it will be product. The second parameter is the type of the primary key. It will be integer in our case. And what is very nice, I can leave this interface empty and without writing any code, I will have the typical CRUD operations like save, find one, find all, find by ID, and so on, readily implemented by Spring Data JPA. Okay, now I'm gonna develop a very simple HTML-based user interface. where we can list all our products stored in the database, and I will have a form where I can add a new product. So this very simple functionality is what I want to develop, and I'm going to develop it in two ways, in fact. First of all, I will develop it that way how web applications worked almost always in the, let's say, early 2000s. This means the server side will generate an HTML page and the browser will display that HTML page. This is the server-side rendering or server-side templating. For this solution, I'm going to use the Thymeleaf templating engine. This will be my first version of this very simple application. And I will also show another way, which is more widespread nowadays, namely that the server side will only offer a REST API and only return JSON-based data to the browser, and the user interface, the client side, will be implemented as a single-page application with using Angular. Angular, React, Vue.js, and so on. These are very widespread client-side frameworks nowadays, and I will have a ready Angular-based application, and I will implement the backend side, which feeds this front-end Angular application with data through JSON-based REST API. So these are the two directions that I would like to show you how we can support this with Spring Boot. And let's start with the first one, so with server-side templating. I'm going to create an HTML file under src main resources/templates folder. I will create a new other and an HTML file. The name of the file will be, let's say, products.html, and it will be an HTML5 file. Maybe the core set could be UTF-8. The title of our page will be, let's say, web shop, and I would like to display in a table all the products that are stored in the database. To achieve this, I will have a table, and the table will have table head and the table body. In the table head, I'm going to have a row, and in this row, I'm going to have two table headers. Let's say the ID and the name and the price. Maybe you have noticed that I often use some hotkeys during I code. I configured this Eclipse that every time I press a hotkey, it is displayed down here. Usually when I teach or I make a video for a training or for a course, I emphasize that which hotkey I have pressed, so that the students can follow what I have done. Now we are a bit short of time, so I don't mention all these hotkeys, but you can see always them down here. Okay, for T-body, we will have table rows, obviously. And inside of each table rows, I will have some data. Let's see, an ID could be, for example, 1. A name could be, let's see, a laptop. And the price will be, let's say, 1,000. What we have now is a completely static HTML. Now, with the help of Thymeleaf, I will make it dynamic so that when this HTML template is executed on the server side, it will generate some dynamic data. To use timeleaf, inside of this HTML tag, I will add the timeleaf namespace, which is in fact http www.timeleaf.org. Okay, and from now on I can use some attributes starting with the th prefix. I will use this th prefix to make this to make sure that for each product a new table row will be generated. This simply means I add the th each here, and I right here I'm gonna show a product where each product is taken from the products model object. The model objects will be put into the model by Java code, and this means that in the model there should be a list of products by this name, products, and during the iteration for each product the one table row will be generated. And obviously here not the static values will be displayed, but using the th text attribute I'm gonna render here the dynamic value product.name. So with this dollar brace, this is the syntax for accessing the model objects, and obviously this is not the product.name but should be the product.id. Yes, and here we're gonna have the name and the price as well. Okay, this will list for us the products, but so that this HTML works correctly, first some Java code should be called that these products are read from the database and put into the model. These web components are called controllers in the Spring MVC library. Spring MVC stands for Model View Controller, and it is the most frequently used web application framework. It has in fact Spring has in fact several web-based frameworks, but Spring MVC is the most commonly used. So I'm gonna create a webshop.web package, and the web components will go here, and the name of it will be product controller. Controllers are the components that we write when we use Spring MVC. To make this class a controller, I'm going to add the controller annotation here. And controller classes will handle HTTP requests. But I would like that when my web application starts up and I type in the browser just the name of this name and port of the server, then the root URL should read the current products and render an answer page with this products.html. To achieve this, I'm going to add the handler method. This handler method, let's say I will call it home, because it's the and I map this home method with the get mapping annotation to a given URL. As I told, I want that it is called by default, so the URL is simply the slash, and in the what I return here is the name of the HTML page that should render the result. So products is our return value, and this products.html will render the response. But we have to add this list of products into the model. To do this, our product controller will use the product repository. The product repository will be a member variable here, which will be injected by Spring with the auto-wired annotation. So it is very important, because product repository is just an interface, and I don't add any implementation. It will be Spring who will generate a product repository implementation when the application is started up. And this product repository implementation will be injected here with dependency injection due to this annotation. Now we can call product repository.findAll, which will give us a list of products. And now I'm going to add this products list to the model. How can I access the model? The model will be simply an argument of this home method, and the model will be represented by a Java util map, where the keys will be strings and the values can be any objects. So I will call it model, and I simply call model.put, and the name of the object will be products, and I add here the products object. It is important that the name and the variable name, it is not important that they are the same. Maybe I will even rename, so let's say all products, to make it clear that the name is what is important in the HTML. So by the name are the model objects accessed. Okay, I will soon run this application, but I will have to configure the database access details. This configuration can be done in the application.properties file. This is the default config file for Spring Boot applications. And I will add spring.datasource.url. This will be the JDBC URL of our database. This will be JDBC PostgreSQL /localhost/5432, and I have a web shop database here created on my machine. A PostgreSQL is installed and a web shop database is created. Now I add the data source dot username, which will be Postgres, and the data source password is also Postgres as well. Obviously, all these data could be externalized in many ways. In fact, maybe through environment variables, maybe by other means, but now I hardwire them here to make it easier. I add a few more things. Our JPA implementation will be Hibernate, and Hibernate has a property with this DDL auto, and we can set it to create, update, or validate, which will define what should be done with the database schema. I choose update because it will make sure that basically when the application is started up, Hibernate will check for all our entities and will check whether the corresponding tables exist in the database. And if not, it will create these tables. So this way I don't have to bother with creating my tables by hand. Also, if I have a product table, but not with these columns, then these columns will be added to the table. So update will be create or update everything what is necessary. And I add one more thing. I would like to show all the SQL statements that are run during our application. So with this property, Spring will instruct Hibernate to log all the SQLs it runs. Okay, let's run it as a Spring Boot application and see what happens. It has a nice ASCII art logo. when the start is up. Okay, I have mistyped something for sure. It says unable to determine and so on and so on. Spring data source URL, JDBC, PostgreSQL, localhost file, our web shop. Okay. Every time we have some error, yes, I have mistyped. It is not Postgres, just simple Postgres, and also the password is simple Postgres. So I restart my application soon. I will just make that please note that all these errors are always appear here in our console, so we can easily find what was the error. Most of the time it is easy to find. Okay, now it started up and it says create table product, so we can see that that this product table was really created, and also a sequence object was created for generating the IDs. Okay, now I'm gonna start a browser and say localhost 8080. When our Spring Boot application starts up, then an embedded web container, a Apache Tomcat web container will be started automatically. So maybe if you have already used some server-side Java technology like Java Enterprise Edition or Spring from the classic Spring libraries, maybe you get used to that you have a separate application server like Glassfish, JBoss Wi-Fi, IBM WebSphere, Oracle WebLogic, and so on and so on, or at least a web container like Tomcat or Jetty, and you develop your code. The server runs in a separate process, and time to time you deploy your application to the server. With Spring Boot, it is turned the other side. So you just start your application, and your application starts an embedded Tomcat web container, or you can also replace it with Jetty or Undertow, but the default Tomcat is fine for us. What we see now that all our products are listed here, but we have 0 products currently. So let's make a form that will enable creating new products. So I go to my HTML now, and I will have a form here. This form will have an action. In fact, I will use a th action, a time-leaf specific attribute that will render at the end a real action attribute, and I can choose where this form will be sent. Let's say /create product. This form, I want that it is not a create a get but a post request, and I will have some inputs here. One for the name of the product and one for the price of the product, and it will be not very nice. I just add some line breaks, and I will have a submit button at the end. Input type equals submit, and value will be, let's say, create. Now comes some time leaf and Spring MVC magic. I will define that this form should work with an object, th object, and I define that a model object called new product will be displayed in this form, and once I submit the form, all the values I have input here will be data bound to this new product. So I define the data binding with the th field attribute, and with star brace I define that the name of the root object, what is the root object, this new product. So the new product will have a name, and this will be filled with this input, and this other input will fill the price of the product. If I do a restart now, I just would like to show you that an interesting thing, that because this form expects that a new product object is stored in the model, if I try to display this page, we will have an internal server error with status code 500, and you can see in the console, illegal state exception, no target object for bin name new product available. So the model misses this new product object. I will take care of this here in our product controller. So far I have added this products list to the model, but now I'm going to add a new empty product as well with the name new product. And the name will be here, and the object will be obviously just a new empty product object this way. If I save my code, and because our code is running, my application is running in debug mode, all the changes made in method bodies are automatically picked up with due to hot code replacement. So I don't have to restart my application. I just F5 here. And you can see that it is already working in that sense that the form is able, form could be rendered. So let's try it. I add some name and some price, and I press the create. Again, we have an error. This is a not found message, not found status code 404. Obviously, because this form will be posted to the create product URL, and we don't have any handler method in any of our controllers that handles this URL, we will have a not found status code. So let's write this method that listens to this create product post request. So public string create product. Here we're going to have a post mapping, and this will be mapped to this URL / create product, and we're going to have a product here, this new product. If we have a th object with proper th fields, then if I declare a variable of that type, then the posted input fields will be automatically encapsulated into a product object, and we'll get this product object here. So we need to save this product now. So I simply call the save method, also already on this product repository. I'm going to save it with a simple call. Our question is what to return now. Our first idea would be returning the same products HTML. I'm going to show you what is the problem with this approach. Okay, let's go back to the root URL. I want to create a new one. Let's create. What I see now is an internal server error. The problem is, again, what we have previously, that the new product is not found in the model. Why it is not found? Why is it not found? Because when we requested for the root URL, it was the first HTTP request. We have put the products and the new product into the model, but the model objects are by default request scoped. This means when a new request comes, by clicking the create button, a new HTTP request, a post request was sent to this create product URL. After this request, the model will be empty. So again, it does not found. If we go back here, we can see that this product was in fact created. So this was called successfully only when rendering the response. The error appeared because we had nothing in the model. We didn't have this new product. The way we handle this, we will instruct Spring MVC to send a redirect request, a redirect response to the browser, and this will instruct the browser to request this URL with a get mapping. And this will make sure that after creating our new product, then all the existing products are refreshed again, put into the product, and also a new empty product is put into the model. So our return will be not the product's HTML directly, but redirect colon slash. This redirect is a Spring MVC specific keyword. Okay, and I will go back here. So let's start from the beginning. I create something new. Press create, and it is created. Fine, it works basically. So I wanted to show that much with the first version, so with this time-leaf server-side rendering. Now I will do almost the same with an Angular application and with REST controllers on the backend side. I have this Angular application ready. I'm just started with npm start. If you have time, I can show you the Angular source code as well, but I want to focus on the Java code, not the TypeScript. It will start soon. Okay. Maybe you know that an Angular application by default will start up on localhost 4200. So I go that way. Okay, it is running. Here we have a very similar empty table and a name and a price. If I try to post something here, we will have an error because it tried to post this to API/products URL, but nothing handles this on the backend side. One more quick detail. Our Angular dev server is configured that it will proxy all the requests sent to the port to the Angular dev server /API to the port 8080. So although in the browser we see such URLs, they will in fact land at our Java code, but we don't have handler methods for /API/products. So this is what I'm going to write now. In the web package, I will add a new class, and this will be called product REST controller. And in a REST controller, we will have a REST controller annotation. This will make sure that once we return with an object in our handler methods, that returned object will not be interpreted as the next HTML, but as an object that should be serialized as JSON into the response. And our first method will be public list of products. Let's say find all. And this product controller will have this product repository again. Just to demonstrate that Spring offers multiple ways of dependency injection. Now I won't inject this member variable with the auto-wired annotation, but instead of it, I will use constructor injection. So I will generate a constructor, and once we have a constructor that accepts a dependency, Spring will automatically find this constructor if we don't have any other constructors, and will inject our product repository here. We can even make it private final to make it even nicer, but it will work anyway. So, and in this find all, we just call the product repository.findAll and return with it. So easy. And I have forgotten one thing. I want that this class will be mapped to the /API/products URL. So I will add the request mapping annotation here, /API/products. If I add such annotation here at the class level, this will be added as a prefix to any other URL I defined with the individual handler methods inside of this controller. I add the get mapping annotation here, but I don't add any further URL because the /API/products is enough for us. Okay, I restart our application. Okay. So we started, and if I refresh our application here, we will already see the product stored in the database. This is because if I do a refresh and check the network with F12, so if we check there was this request to /API/products, it was a GET request, and we see that the response was this JSON. So we had nothing to do with converting the product to JSON. It is by default solved. In fact, Spring MVC will use by default the Jackson library. Jackson is a JSON serialization library, and because we have getters for ID, name, and price, all the ID, name, and price will be put into the result, and we have multiple of them, so we have a list. You see here the appropriate brackets. Okay, and our Angular application is written that it displays these objects. Now the only thing left is that I add a handler method for handling a post. We can check when we upload, try to add the new product here. Oh, sorry. So there was a post request to /API/products, and the payload was a JSON. So in the form of a JSON object, the name and price are uploaded here, but we don't handle this post currently, but we will soon. So I add the post mapping again because the post is post is sent to the /API/products. I don't have to add any URL here because this class level URL is enough. We can think about it. What should we return once a new product will be created? There are two common options. Either we return only the generated ID, or we return the whole product. Now I will return the whole product object. We'll have a create method. And now, as an input method argument, I will declare a product, and I have to annotate this product with the request body annotation. I show the other controller. So once we had a normal post, I will go back to the localhost 8080, and show how the data are posted in that form. So I post a new one with create. There was a post request to the create product, but in the form of form data. If we check the source, this was sent name equals something and price equals something. By default, if I add the product here, this product will be filled from these data. But now I want that form to be processed by the handler method, and for this reason I add this request button annotation, which based on the header, which is application JSON, will find an appropriate deserializer and will deserialize a product object. So this is a small difference. But what we do now is very similar. We just use the product repository to save a product object, and once it is saved, I return it, a restart. Maybe remember I have mentioned once I modify the body of a method, then no restart is needed, but when I add new methods or new member variables, new annotation and so on, then a restart is needed. Okay, and now I try to add this product, and now it succeeded. Now two objects appeared because remember I have created one here, but now I add one new and it is already created. So this is the small demo I wanted to show you. I have to emphasize that when I teach a course in these topics, we go into much more details. For example, we will introduce a service layer and don't call directly our product repositories. Maybe we can introduce some data transfer objects so that the objects that appear at the REST API are not directly our JPA entities, but similar objects, data transfer objects like a product DTO. And there are much more details about this topic. So I suggest that if you are interested in these technologies, you take our courses at CUBIX.
Yes, thank you, Gábor, for this insightful demo. So let's go through the question. I saw one in the comment section from AD that why Java and not Node.js or other backend techs? So what's your take on that after more than 10,000 hours in a Java environment?
Okay. For backend side development, Java is very popular nowadays as well. So part of the market has taken by Node.js, as you mentioned, but there are still a very great market share, and there exists such type of applications for which Java is a much better choice than Node.js. So where more reliability in heavily transactional systems, let's say banks, insurance companies, and so on, they still rely on very much on Java at the backend side.
As the millions of legacy projects as well. So,
and not I just want to emphasize that not only legacy projects, but also at new projects.
Yeah, but the legacy
a viable option. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Gábor, for this demo again and for joining us today. And thank you for mentioning our course together. That and if you are interested in learning the basics of Java Spring Boot from Gábor through an online cohort-based course, I will leave a link in the comment section, so you can check out all the topics you will learn during this course. And remember that this course starts on 25th of April. So hurry up and reserve your spot. And also thank you all for joining us today. And I hope we can see together in the next one. And also, if you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit the like and the follow button so you won't miss our upcoming events in the next weeks. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again, and see you in the next one. Thank you, Gábor, again. Have a good day.
Thank you.